Believe it or not, you've got the majority of what you need to know to start building a character. There are some things that are sort of technical that I can explain to you quickly that will give you the rounding out you need to be able to continue. For example, the center of an object is not as you may think it is. So if I were to create a polygon cube, for example, and I were to just look at where the center is, this center is in the middle as it is right now. So if I move this around, for example, and rotate it, it's going to rotate from that spot. Now, if I undo that by doing Shift-Z, then I can grab these vertices instead, and I select them, press W, move the object over, and the center of the vertices is where the actual cursor is. But if I were to unselect the cursor and put F8 back to object mode and reselect it, it's going to appear where the original object was. So I've moved, by doing that, I've moved the object's center nowhere, but I've moved the object itself over here. So if I wanted to, for example, rotate this or animate it in some sort of way, the object center would be its center point, and it could do that type of rotation from axis, which is right here. Now, you're probably thinking, this is going to get confusing pretty quickly, and it really can. So what we end up doing is we learn to manipulate this actual center. So if I were to leave this right here in this corner, and I wanted to take the center and attach it back to the midpoint of the object, I could press the D key, and the D key, as it has a little icon in the middle within the surrounding universal. Obviously, I can do just basically one. I can do one movement with it. All I can do really is move it around. But anyway, so I move it to the center. I can scroll around and see if it is in the center, and try and get it as lined up best we can. And then I basically press W again, and now you can see it's back in the center of the object. So that's pretty helpful. Now, another little thing that's interesting is, let's just say I want to snap this to the center because I'm working on a polygon over here, and I want to basically snap the center of this object to the 0, 0 axis. There's 0 there and there's 0 there, so I want it to snap right to here. Well, again, press F8, go back to object mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this thing called freeze transformation. So if I go modify freeze transformations, and then modify reset transformations, it basically takes any of the actions that have been put onto this particular sphere, freezes them so they don't actually happen, and then it resets it to the center. So that's really handy, and I'll tell you why it's really handy. If I just do undo to all this stuff and pop this sphere back into the center, if we wanted to start building an actual head, we would probably start off with a cube just like this. And we don't want to build, as we learned with the worm, when you build something in 3D space, then you're really working a lot harder than you really need to. You really just need to build half of the worm and then position it in the right spot. And then make it sort of different from side to side. So to elaborate on that, let's just say this is our head we're going to build. We're not going to build an eye here, an eye here, and a mouth here. We're going to build half the face, duplicate it, and put it together again. So I'm going to do that process for you right now. So I'm going to basically select the side here, and I'm going to snap this over to the center. Now, this is obviously the center. To find the center, we can press X and snap it to the center, which I just did. I'm going to snap like that. Also, I can take it and I can scale based on a different scale. So you'll start learning that there's different ways to skin a cat again. If I do scale mode, instead of doing object mode, I did world mode, for example. Or but I want it to be at the center of the object. There it is there. So default is basically in the center of those particular vertices, and then object puts it in the middle of the object. So I can scale this to 0 by scaling it again and again and again like this, and now it's at 0. There's another way to do it. So I'm going to put that back to where it was. Reset tools, another way to do it. Let's put that in object. And then Now we have half of a head. So it's not half of a head yet because this is a face that is not going to make this hollow. If I was to be carving in, eyes and whatnot, I couldn't just take this head and duplicate it without having, if I duplicated Shift D, if I duplicated it and went to -1, I would have this face and this face here, and I couldn't merge them together. So in this case, I want to grab this face, delete it, and I will eventually grab this face and delete it, but I don't need to because this is the face we're working on. I duplicate it. I then scale in 1 by bringing up my modeling toolkit. No, I'll do this, do scale of -1, and then I select the two of them. So now it's two objects, right? Two objects. So select them both, and the word is combine. So combine that, and you'll see now I select them instead of selecting two. There's only one surface, but if I were to select just one of these vertices, it's still separate pieces in the center. So what we want to be able to do is we want to just grab, I just grabbed the object itself, and I should be able to say edit mesh and merge, and now it should take everything that was close to itself and merge it. So these, as you can see, I tried to select only one of these and I can't. It's one piece now. So this has been merged together. So you can imagine one half of the face flipped over, merged together, and you have another half of the face. Now, this brings us to delete history. So as I select an object, I'll see on this side right here I have inputs. So these are all the actions I took. Like for example, right now if I were to move this over a little bit, I tweak it here and here, and then I were to take a face and let's just say I did something like extrude it. So let's just extrude that up and select the whole object again. You can see that I've got I tweaked the vertice and then I extruded it. So Maya will basically make a history of all the actions you've done all the way along. That's why I can go Shift Z and undo, Control Z, sorry, and undo these actions because it has a memory of them all. And you'll see that I've lost the tweak and I've also lost the extrude because I've undone those. So I can keep undoing these. Now I'm not merging it anymore, etc. So you can see as I go along that this history is created. Sometimes this can get very, very, very large, and what you want to do is you want to stop that history from continuing because it bogs your computer down. So what you're going to do is you're going to edit, delete by type, history, and that deleted that one little section over there. So that's a very quick but simple way to explain. You have your vertices that are moving, all of them together. This is the center of the vertices, but the object center is over here. And to move that, you press D, and then you can move it over, and now that's the center of the object over here. And flipping an object by bringing it in and working on half. For example, if I were to do, if I were to open, let's see what I have recently opened, recent projects. If I bring in that mannequin, you will see, I've got some crazy shader stuff here. Okay, you'll see that this guy here. Let's just delete this whole. He's not symmetrical right now. But if I were to, I deleted the whole skeleton because he was posed. So if I look at this and I would actually take half of it by selecting all the faces, going to the front view, selecting all these faces, deleting them on only one side. No, let's do the other side. Like this. So now we've got this side. Okay. So I would model on this side and say I don't want this, I want to move this over, I want this to be over, I want to change this arm a bit up, I want to do this a little bit up, I want to do this a little up. You're like, great, I really like that. You'll do what we did a minute ago, Control D, -1, -1. Oh, again, because I had a skeleton on it, it's all locked, so I need to unlock it. So, -1. Here's our guy. You can also do things like when you're working away at it, and you don't want to basically always be looking at the whole thing this way, you can do this thing called duplicate special, or even duplicate as an instance. So let's see, so modify or edit duplicate, I think. Duplicate special. So let's put it as an instant, and let's do -1 in the x. Like that. Duplicate it. So now, the cool thing about an instance is that it's not actually a copy of this. It's a copy that just simply follows it. So when you're sculpting on one side, you're sculpting on the other side as well. And then when you're done, you can just delete this one here, duplicate this one, go over to -1. Oh, do it again where it's all locked again. Crazy. Anyway, do -1. And now you basically can combine those together by doing the same routine that we did a minute ago, where we combine and we merge them together. So now it's all one piece. And then that's what you'd rig up.